For centuries, knowledge has been hidden in plain sight across the sands of time. Whispers of lost civilizations, cryptic symbols, and forbidden histories have been erased or concealed. What if the truth was never lost, but hidden? Welcome to Eye of Ancient Mysteries, where the past speaks and the future listens. Sit back, open your mind, and prepare to uncover the untold secrets of our world. Let the journey begin now.
How happy I am! How happy!
Antoniy Endotelius Jr. carefully arranged his guests in the armchairs. Very good, my grandson, that you decided to visit me, and that you even brought a friend. His grandson mumbled something indistinct in response. Why didn't you warn me, an old man? Because of the surprise.
Bravo!
And why don't you take off your gloves? It's warm. Fashion, Grandpa? The grandson's friend replied hoarsely. Well, if it's fashionable. The old cosmonavigator waved his hands understandingly. Just sit here for a minute, entertain yourselves, and I'll prepare some garum coffee. Just the way you like it, my grandson. Right, I love it. The grandson quickly agreed. The host soon returned, holding a tray with 3 cups of coffee in his long, thin fingers. Perhaps, boys, we should sit on the terrace, huh? The sea breeze blows there, and I can smoke my pipe without bothering you. The grandson and his friend exchanged glances.
Why, Grandpa!
It's so cozy here, and your smoke won't bother us at all. It will remind us of old times. Antoniy Endotelius narrowed his eyes mysteriously and looked at his grandson. How shall I entertain you? He asked thoughtfully as he filled his pipe. I will tell you one of my stories.
Yes, yes!
The grandson and his friend urged in unison. Tell us about the Madads. All right, agreed the old cosmonavigator. He settled his long and bony frame comfortably in the armchair, lit his pipe, and, staring thoughtfully at the swirling smoke, began his tale. I won't remind you that in my time I was considered the best extraordinary inspector. My name was known throughout the entire galaxy and even beyond it. I uncovered the most mysterious incidents. True, now I am feeble and old. I've begun to forget many things. My thoughts are no longer as sharp. But once, well, out of modesty, I won't dwell on my undeniable, but Alice past merits. So only facts. I remember it perfectly, a summer morning, the 31st of July, 10 hours, 52 minutes and 43 seconds. The videophone screen lights up. I recognize the senior expert on external transportation. His face is pale. There are dark circles under his eyes, and his voice is trembling. We need your help, he said as soon as we exchanged greetings. I am ready, I replied. You need help finding the cargo rocket that has disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Inspector Elder had witnessed my exceptional insight more than once, but even this time he couldn't hide his astonishment. How did you guess? Oh, it's very simple, I said casually. First, my encyclopedic memory stores information that on the 29th of July, long-distance cargo rockets were due to return. Second, judging by your appearance, you haven't slept for 2 days. meaning since the 29th of July. Third, your head is slightly tilted to the right. That's because you've spent 2 days trying to contact the cargo rockets, and their screens are positioned slightly to your right. Summing all this up, I concluded that one of the cargo rockets had not returned. And finally, since you have come to me for help, it means the disappearance was mysterious.
Genius!
Elder couldn't contain himself. And at the same time, how simple! Everything genius is simple, I said modestly. Now tell me the details. And this is what the old expert had told me. Photon Cargo Null, Rocket 9AK 117, piloted by Vasily Sazonov, had not returned to base. His flights had never been entirely regular, but no one had paid much attention to that. Sometimes he would return a few hours early, sometimes he would arrive looking rested and tanned, even after the most grueling trips. Tanned! And yet, in Sector AC-325B-84, where he flew, there was not a single decently bright star emitting ultraviolet light. All the stars there were red, with photosphere temperatures far lower than 6,000 degrees. You couldn't get a tan under such stars! After speaking with Elder, I went to the informatics center and reviewed a number of necessary materials. The next day, I went to the spaceport. My ship, equipped with ultra-powerful engines, stood in the most secluded corner. Between the concrete slabs where the ship rested, tough grass had sprouted. I barely managed to open the hatch. Stepping inside the cabin, what did I see? Filth and neglect. A thick layer of dust covered everything. Cobwebs stretched across corners and flies the size of sparrows, buzzed around, likely mutants.
And the spiders!
Imagine the size of a spider capable of catching such a fly! I barely managed to clean up, loaded my rocket, and set off for Sector AC-325B's 84. The cargo rocket seemed to have vanished into thin air. Then, suddenly, the gravimeter began registering an extremely high gravitational field. Some massive body was strongly pulling at my rocket. At first, I didn't pay much attention to it, but the gravity continued increasing at an alarming rate. With my usual remarkable composure, I decided to engage the maneuvering thrusters to turn my main engine nozzles toward the source of gravity. But, to my horror, when I pressed the key, I didn't hear the familiar roar and whistle. The maneuvering thrusters didn't engage. In a split second, I activated the defector, and a message appeared on the screen. Contact No. 173 in Circuit No. 25 has failed. I rushed to Circuit No. 25 and, breaking my nails, tore off the cover. A thick layer of cobwebs lay across the electrodes, acting as a dielectric and preventing contact. I cleared them away and sprinted back to the cabin. But it was too late. The gravimeter readings were so extreme that escaping the grip of the black star was beyond hope. Yes, it was a black star, an extraordinarily mysterious phenomenon. Its unfathomable gravitational pull contracts time and space into a dense cocoon, from which not even a beam of light can escape. My brain, which reveled a computing machine in speed, struggled unusually long this time. But I found a solution to this incredibly complex problem. I recalled an ancient theory. If one flies toward the center of a black star with sufficient acceleration, one might exceed the speed of light. In that case, the traveling object would find itself in another physical world, where time flows in reverse. Without wasting another second in contemplation, I engaged the engines at full power and surged toward the center of the black star at even greater speed. For a while, I lost consciousness, but when I came to, I realized that my rocket, still moving at an immense but rapidly decreasing velocity, was now retreating from the black star. Around me stretched a completely unfamiliar cosmos. Sun-like stars shone with steady light. My eyes fell upon the ship's chronometer. The second hand was moving backward. And then it hit me. That was the answer. Why Vasily Sazonov had returned early, tanned, and well-rested. The scoundrel had figured it out. But where was the planet where he had been relaxing? My unparalleled intuition told me that it had to be an Earth-like planet. So I set course for such a planet. Days passed in fruitless searches. I was already considering whether to leave, suspecting that this time my intuition had failed me. But by chance, on a tree near my landing site, I saw a carving made with a pocket knife. Vasya was here. But where was he now? I needed to search the remaining planets immediately. I entered my ship, about to launch, when suddenly, with a thunderous roar, a photon cargo null rocket descended nearby. Out of it stepped Vasya. My first instinct was to rush out of the ship and run toward the pilot. But as I examined him closely, I stopped. I realized that this was not Vasya. This was a mated. The grandson's hand trembled, spilling coffee onto the tablecloth. Engrossed in his story, the Old Cosmogator continued. I hadn't wasted a whole day in the informatics center for nothing. I learned that in the distant reaches of the galaxy, there had been encounters with matids, extremely malevolent and vengeful creatures. Nature had gifted them with an evil intelligence and the ability to alter their body shape within a wide range. They could assume the form of any animal, or even a human. Yes, my friends, don't be surprised. Even a human! The only thing that could give them away was their claws, which were stronger than steel. I radioed the mated, pretending I couldn't leave my ship due to a sprained ankle, and invited him to fly back to base with me. Vasya hesitated but agreed. We flew on parallel courses. I carefully observed my companion's actions and noticed, just in time, that his rocket was beginning to turn its main nozzles toward me. "Oh ho, my friend," I thought. "You intend to burn me, don't you?" My ship was more maneuverable, and I managed to get ahead of the mated. I turned my ship and engulfed the cargo rocket in flames. Its hull melted like butter. An explosion ejected the mated from the cabin, but the wretch was clever. He clung to my ship's armor like a leech. His durability was incredible. His claws left deep gashes in the hull. I tried to grasp him with the manipulator arm and place him in the isolation chamber. The mated broke free, leaving a claw behind, and began slowly drifting away from my ship, and so ended my encounter with him. As for the real Vasya, That lazy fool had become so lost in his vacation that he found himself in an era long past and had to wait in real time for the moment he could return to the base. He spent several months on one of Jupiter's moons, playing checkers and other intellectual games with the natives. That's when the Mated stole his cargo rocket, taking advantage of the pilot's carelessness. In the next room, I keep the Matode's claw. You can see it if you're interested. Please follow me. With old-fashioned grace, the hospitable Cosmogator gestured for his guests to step ahead of him. They eagerly entered the room. The old Cosmogator pressed a button near the door, and a thick steel plate slid down, blocking their way back. On the wall before them, a screen lit up, displaying the ironic smile of Antoniy Endotelius Jr, the former extraordinary inspector. "You are far too careless, dear Matids," he said mockingly. "I was well aware of your vengefulness, and had been expecting you for some time. But your bloody revenge failed, through your own fault. First of all, you gave yourselves away with the gloves you wore to hide your claws."
Foolish!
"Who wears gloves in such weather? I know my grandson well. He does not follow fashion so blindly as to imitate it entirely. And then there was the coffee. Only I can drink Guaram-style coffee. It's meant solely for the inhabitants of Garama, who possess a 7-layered, ultra-resistant stomach. And my pipe. The tobacco I smoke comes from pseudo-oak wood. The smoke is extraordinarily potent. Once a cosmic whale died from inhaling it. And yet you praised its aroma. Another foolish mistake. The trapped Matids raged inside the room. They hurled themselves against the walls, clawing and howling so terribly that even through the armored door it sounded terrifying. "I'll leave you now, and I hope you forgive me." Antoniy Endotelius smiled. "I must inform the Central Council of my catch. Let them send a commission."